Hi, and welcome to Series 2 of the Pen to Publish podcast with your hosts, Alexa Whitten, author, typesetter, and independent publisher, and
Alexa Tewkesbury, author, editor, and proofreader.
hi there, and welcome to the sixth episode. Can you believe it, Alexa? We're on number 6 already.
I know, it's just gone like that.
It really has. So today, Alexa One is going to be talking about rhyming books. These seem to be incredibly popular at the moment. I'm not quite sure why they've become so popular, but everyone seems to be wanting to write in rhyming. Anyway, probably the most famous examples include the Julia Donaldson's books, which have become a fantastic BBC adaptation. I think they're shown over Christmas time, aren't they? I think
Probably, yeah, they sort of bring out the specials.
Anyway, they're lovely. So, and they seem to have kicked off a huge surge in people wanting to write children's books in general, but also in rhyming. There are some lovely other rhyming books. I don't know if you've read Harry McClary. Have you read any of Harry McClary books?
No, I haven't. Isn't that what I probably should have done, but I
Oh,
haven't.
they're lovely. When I was nannying back in the day, I was reading to the person that I was looking after, Harry McClary, and they were just fantastic. I loved the stories. It's basically Harry McClary was a little dog and all his dog friends. It was very sweet.
Oh.
And then let's not forget the brilliant book by Pam Adams. There was an old lady who swallowed a fly. Do you remember that?
Oh, I do. And funnily enough, that's cropped up recently in one of the books that I'm editing.
It's such a brilliant rhyme. And I remember having the book, and the book that I had, every time you turned a page, the hole in her stomach got bigger as she kept eating the animals or swallowing the animals.
That's brilliant.
It was really clever. Yeah.
That's probably why you wanted to go into book design, because
Maybe.
you saw that. Brilliant.
And obviously the last one with her swallowing a horse, and she died, of course. It was brilliant. Loved it. You know, it's those kind of books that have really become popular with children. And I think they're just really easy to read. Therein lies the thing. They're really easy to read, but I think they're quite hard to write. So, Alexa, go on, explain what do we need to look for when we're trying to write a rhyming book? Because they're not easy, are they?
They're not easy. I think there's still this perception among some people that writing books for children is an easy option. I don't know if people think perhaps the audience is easy to please, but writing rhyming books for children, it's very hard. It's not just it just has to rhyme. It's not like that. There's an awful lot to writing a rhyming children's book. The competition is huge for a start, and your audience, those children, they're hypercritical. Now, children's fiction has to be genuinely good if it's going to compete in the marketplace. And rhyming children's books have to be excellent because, as Alexa 2 was just saying, you're up against some really good rhymers. So if you want to write a rhyming book for young children, you really need to know what you're doing. Now, judging from some of our recent client authors, writing in rhyme is actually very popular. As you say, it seems that the majority of picture books we've had through recently have been written in rhyme.
I know we've had Jodie, we've had Laura, to name just two.
Yes. And Laura's is out fairly soon. It's getting to that finishing stage and it's going to look so fabulous. So we thought if this is a kind of upward trend among children's authors, it would just be useful to offer some advice on how to get it right if you're planning to take the rhyming plunge. Step 1, I would say, this is my biggest tip really, is to get yourself a rhyming dictionary. Now mine is the Penguin Rhyming Dictionary, and it is without doubt my favourite reference book. So I'll put the link in the show notes. But there are others too, and there are online resources, but I just love this one. It's right beside me whenever I'm editing a rhyming book, and it's fascinating because it'll take me to a rhyme I'd never even thought of on my own. Now I'm constantly going, ha! When I'm using it, with a genuine sense of satisfaction because it's given me the perfect rhyme for a particular sentence. And in fact, one of our authors, this is who we were just talking about, Laura, whose gorgeous rhyming book, Don't Be Silly, is coming out later this year, actually thought I was a genius for a particular rhyme she thought I'd come up with. And I had to confess, no, it wasn't me. It was my Penguin Rhyming Dictionary. So get yourself a rhyming dictionary. She has. And I promise you will end up impressing your friends. More importantly, you'll impress your readers. Now, there's something really fun about a rhyme that's a surprise, and that's what a rhyming dictionary does. It gives you choice, so it therefore gives you opportunity to be adventurous with your rhymes, which is what will delight your readers. Now, at the same time, you still need to make sure that the rhyme works and fits within the rhythm of the line. Oh, and another tip when rhyming, try not to turn sentences round for the sake of making a rhyme work. So, for example, if you wrote something like, we're going out driving in the car, trotting along the horses are, it just sounds wrong.
Yeah,
And it's
you've
not.
changed. Yeah, you've put verb or the whatever, not the verb, but the horses are. You would never say that in a
Yeah,
normal
no,
sentence, would you?
no,
Mm,
you've split the verb really and put half
mm,
at one end and half at the other. And it sounds wrong. It's not a comfortable rhyme because that's not how we speak or how sentences are structured. Now, rhyme needs to work properly. So if what you're trying to say just won't fit, then maybe say something else.
mm.
But it's not just the rhyme that matters. The rhythm of each line is incredibly important too. The rhythm is what gives the lilt to the words for the reader. And if the rhythm is all over the place, it's just not comfortable for the reader because as they read, and rhyming books are designed very much to be read aloud, they'll be trying to impose a rhythm or they'll be stumbling over lines because they thought they'd figured out the rhythm and suddenly the pattern of syllables and the emphasis are all muddled.
I would say more than actually what you've said before with the sentences making sense, because I think sometimes you could probably get away with that if it's a bit of a silly rhyme. But I would say this is the most important, is getting that rhythm right, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is what gets overlooked. It
Mm,
really does.
yeah, I would agree.
So if you want to write in rhyme, read as many excellent rhyming authors as you can find. Read them aloud. See how easy the text is to read, how it lilts and flows, and then fix the rhythm of their writing in your head. Memorize the gruffalo and speak it to yourself in the shower. That's the standard you're aiming for. When you read your own rhyming writing, must have that same kind of lilt and flow. And if it doesn't, it needs a whole lot more work. And read it ruthlessly. When you've written something, it can be very easy to impose a rhythm on it, whether it's there or not. So I would suggest recording yourself reading it, then listening to it back a few times, because hearing it like that should help you be really honest with yourself about whether that rhythm actually works or whether it doesn't. And if you hear something that's not right, please don't think it's only just one line. It doesn't matter. It does matter. It really does. One line can ruin your entire rhyming text.
And also, I think if you've instilled this rhythm yourself, actually, probably what you could do is get someone else to read it and see whether or not they go into the same rhythm that you are. Because I think when you're very familiar with the words, you're going to impose that beat. Whereas if what I really ideally you want a stranger to read it or someone who hasn't read it before to see whether or not that lilt then or the beat then actually is within it and not something you're making up in your own head.
Yeah, yeah. Fresh eyes. We've talked
Mm,
about that before.
yeah.
So important. And then there's the story. Ultimately, your rhyming book exists to tell a story. So it must tell that story faithfully, and you mustn't manipulate your plot for the sake of fitting in with a really great rhyme. The meaning of every sentence needs to be clear. Every rhyming word needs to make complete sense in its context, and the story needs to shine through. So those are the three main things to think about when deciding to write a rhyming book: rhyme, rhythm, and story. And because writing in rhyme is tricky and requires a lot of discipline, it's worth asking yourself why you want to write in rhyme in the first place. What will it add to your story? Will the story work just as well in prose? If it's a poetic feel you're after, you can still make your prose poetic through the vocabulary you use and through sentence structure. It doesn't actually have to rhyme. Now, having edited quite a few rhyming books now, I think my greatest fear when I find one in my inbox is that if an author hasn't fully grasped the rhyme, rhythm, story principles, they're going to end up with a lot of red editing markup on their writing. And some writers will then feel it's not their work. In fact, I can't remember if it was a writing book, Alexa, but I know that there was one author, I'd done quite a big edit on something, and at the end she chose to go back to a lot of her original writing because she felt it wasn't her work. But I can't actually
Oh,
remember if that was a rhyming book. It was a while ago now.
was it
Um,
one of our collaborations?
yes, it was a picture
Oh,
book, but
that wasn't the lady who just 5 minutes. Was it that one?
yes, it was. I think it was the second book in the series.
Mm.
The first book was really, really tight. The second book needed a lot more help to kind of bring it up to that standard, but she did feel that there was too much editing and that it kind
Which,
of.
it's her prerogative, I guess. But
Yes, yes. But I know that is what I fear with rhyming books, because if it's
mm,
not nearly there, well, there just is going to be a lot of red markup. And
yeah,
then Some writers then will not feel that it's their work.
Yeah.
So generally, if it seems as though the editing is going to take the form of a complete rewrite, then as an editor, I would probably go back to the author, point out where the text falls down, and ask them to go and work on it some more. Editing is about sharpening up and smoothing out what an author has written, whether that's rhyme or prose. It's not about writing something with the author or for the author for that matter. And, as we've said, that's probably not what authors want.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there are pitfalls that writers can all too easily fall into when choosing to write in rhyme. But if you want to write a rhyming picture book, just remember those 3 principles: rhyme, rhythm, and story, and focus on excellence. You don't want to produce a poorly written book. What's the point? You don't want to produce even a mediocre book. You want your writing to stand out for how good it is. And if you put in the work, because any writing is hard work, then it really will.
Yeah, I mean, you've brought up some really good points. And I think probably the main one is, does it need to be a rhyming book?
Yeah.
Do you need to really put that pressure upon yourself? Could it work as not? I mean, a children's book, as you said, is hard. Actually, I would say a children's book is harder.
There's another point with rhyming books, which I don't know whether it's so applicable to self-publishing authors, but a traditional publisher who commissioned me to write a picture book specifically said they didn't want a rhyming book because they said it's so much harder for them to then sell abroad, because as soon as you're starting to get involved in translations, it's virtually impossible to be able to translate a book faithfully and keep to the rhyme. So I've been specifically asked not to write rhyming picture books for that reason. But as I say, the self-publishing might be different because an author might be very focused just on their own country.
Market. Yeah. That's a good point, actually. I hadn't even thought of that. I've just finished doing a children's book. It's a lovely book about hedgehogs, actually. And hers is a lovely story. And she's managed to find a publisher in Czechoslovakia. So she's getting it translated. But because it's not a rhyming book, it's easily translated.
Yes.
I hadn't thought of that. It's a really good point, actually. So if you're only aiming for the UK market, then and it's something that you really want to do, then follow Alexa One's principles for sure. They will help. But do just ask yourself whether or not it really needs to be in rhyming prose, because if it doesn't need to be, or it's not going to make any much difference to the story, then don't put that additional pressure on yourself. So anyway, that's a very concise but very useful 3 principles on how to write rhyming books. And I think you can take something away from this, even if it's not a rhyming book. Remember, children are very, what did you call them right at the beginning?
Hypercritical.
Hypercritical. I mean, you've got authors like David Walliams who, okay, their writing is not brilliant, but it's funny and it engages children, love him or loathe him. David Walliams has opened up, I think, boys especially reading books, which is fantastic.
Yeah. I think the larger than life characters that he creates as well.
Yeah. Now, next week, we're going to be talking about some editing myths. And this is going to be a goodie because I think we've explored quite a few reasons why you need an editor and what that entails. But we're going to condense it down into the writing myths. Some of the stories we've had as both typesetter, publisher, and editor. So we're going to come up with top 8 myths of what people think editing is or isn't. So do tune in for that. And then that's the penultimate episode. And then after that, we've got a guest speaker. Do we know who that guest speaker is, Alexa?
Oh, we haven't finally arranged, but we will be doing so.
Okay. I think it's going to be a goodie as well, isn't it?
It is.
If it is who I think it is.
Yes, it's going to be very exciting.
Excellent. Someone famous.
Yes, and very nice as well. I would say that's such a lovely man.
Okay, well, that's very, so hopefully we'll be able to reveal who that is in next week's episode. There you go. That's everything for us today. And we will be here this time next week for editing myths. Take care.
Bye-bye.